Hi there, I am back. This time I am going to be sharing the Time Travel American History Pastimes newspaper. Now, this comes in a bigger PDF or book than what you see here, but I have hacked it up into a million pieces. So just know that it comes in a book. I want to say it's about this size, perhaps a little bit larger. But I'm going to show you kind of what I've done with it to make it work with what we kind of already had in place for our curriculum. So first, let me kind of just show you the format. The concept is that the child is the reporter, and so they're going to be investigating or researching different topics. They're going to put the article is by their name. The date is already here on almost all of them. They're going to come up with a name for the article that's related to the topic. In this particular case, we're looking at Alexander Hamilton's death by duel. And then they're going to fill in an article as though they are writing a newspaper. And then they have different things that you can do. You can be creative. They have a weekly games where you can make your own pastimes word search that goes with the topic. And I'm actually going to use, that's my daughter's. I'm going to use my son's to show you some of the topics that were in here. Some of these she already went over last year and he hasn't, and so I pulled them out for him, but not her. So we've got Pennsylvania and the Whiskey Rebellion. Now keep in mind, this is not all of the topics. I didn't actually even print all of the topics. And this is not the order that they're in, but this is just going to give you an idea of what some of them look like. The Louisiana Purchase. And then you also have, this is one of the ones that's kind of fun. It's a weekly ad. Design a pastimes paper advertisement based on the types of items sold during the time of your last article. So that's kind of fun because that'll be a little bit of research too to figure out what kind of things people were buying and selling and what kind of ads you would see. Alexander Hamilton's death by duel. New York's first private orphanage. Andrew Jackson leads the Battle of New Orleans. The Monroe Doctrine. Signing of Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. So these are just kind of some miscellaneous topics that we're going to touch on. The first half of the year I'm doing ancient history with my daughter, and so I'm going to give him this stuff to kind of keep him busy while we're doing that because he did that in the past at his school. And then we'll do second semester, we're going to go into the wars, World War I, World War II, Depression, stuff like that, which I'm going to show you that in a minute too. So just so you know, here's a couple other topics. I pulled these ones out. They don't have a home yet, but we are going to be learning about natural disasters as we're doing our world studies. And so these are some things that I pulled out to go in that binder. The Peshtigo fire, the devastating San Francisco earthquake, and the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. So those will go in that unit. I also took, at the back of the book, they have a bunch of blank formats here, templates. So I pulled these out, and this is literally just an entire book of blank templates. I may or may not disassemble this for them, or I might just have them work through it. And there's a spot here where it says article by, so they can just put their name up here, and then at the end of the year we can disassemble if we want to put into a separate portfolio for them. But if we encounter anything in American history that sounds kind of fascinating, I might have them pull one of these out and kind of make it their report for that topic. I think it's a pretty handy little format there. Next, we are doing a unit on inventors. Now, I did buy this. I got all the stuff before I knew my son was going to be staying home. I think in hindsight, because the PDFs are working well for 2 students, I may have bought 2 of these to have, and I did a flip through of this. But here's where I'm going with this. If I had purchased this in a PDF, I probably would have overlapped it with all of the inventions that are in the Pastimes newspaper. What I did was, I did show you guys that I had kind of tore up my American history timeline as well and broke it into 2 sections. There's actually a 3rd section, like an early history with It talks about Polynesia and the Vikings, and I am going to pull some of that out because we are going to study the Vikings a little bit. But these are the two that I have bound so far. So that being said, these sheets here came out of the American history timeline. But I didn't have a nice cover for my invention section, and so I thought, oh, this is perfect. And what it does is it breaks it up by a date span. And so I went in, I used that as kind of a header, and then I stuck the corresponding past times paper topics that related to inventors or inventions within that time frame. Now, I think it would be really fun to do this, but to use these also in a timeline fashion, kind of put them in date order based on when they were invented and kind of study all of the inventions in a timeline method. I think I'm still going to be doing that, but we're going to have to toggle between two books. It would be really nice to have it all in one place. So I'm just throwing that out there for anybody who might be trying to make that decision. It might be a fun way to overlap those two books. Okay, so in here we've got Benjamin Franklin demonstrates lightning is electric. So it kind of gives you an example. This is one of the first topics that's in there. Obviously it's an early one. And so they give you the headlines on the first few. And then as you get further in, they start having you do your own headlines. The invention of the telephone by Alexander Graham Bell. Edison invents the light bulb. And then we go into, this sheet is also from the American timeline, American history timeline, discoveries, inventions, and innovations for the 1900s to 2000s. And this one is also American history timeline. It talked about a couple of inventions, and this is out of there as well, but it fit in our inventor series better than it fit in there for the case that we're doing an entire focus this year on inventors and inventions. So this one is Dr. Jonas Salk's polio vaccine proven effective. Elon Musk announces another genius invention. So those are the ones that we've got inside of our invention study. And I will probably be adding things into this as well as we go. But for now, that's what I have. So I know you've already seen these guys, but my reason for pulling them back out was to show you that I incorporated the past times newspaper unit into this guy as well. So I moved these papers around just a little bit in the order that I had them, but this one is from the American history timeline, and then I threw in the past times paper, the beginning of the Civil War, back to the American history timeline, back to the past times, the abolishment of slavery, back to the American history timeline. So it's all kind of intermingled, just so you know, but that's kind of the way I did it. And then we've got the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Then this is from the American history timeline again. And these are all from the American history timeline. So that's how I kind of meshed those two units together for the Civil War and abolition of slavery. Then I did the same thing inside of our modern times and world wars. So this is all the American history timeline. The Wright brothers' first flight, which was also in here, but briefly. And so I've got the Who Was book actually, so I'm gonna have my son read through it and then complete this article. The sinking of the Titanic. Now we're back to the American history timeline, back to the past times report, women granted the right to vote. So this is all in a timeline fashion, the beginning of the Great Depression. I put it all in here literally in the order in which it occurred in history. Back to the American timeline, back to the paper, the attack on Pearl Harbor, timeline, paper, first African-American child integrated into an all-white school. That was all timeline. Back to the paper, assassination of President John F. Kennedy. This is timeline. fine. Back to the paper, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And then the last one I pulled out, we're not going all the way up to current day American history this year. The Watergate scandal is revealed is the last one that I chose to put in here. And the reason for that is, like I said, this is all going to be a half semester unit. So we're doing this together and then going into ancient history for my daughter. Then I'll be pulling this out for second semester. So anyway, that was a really long drawn out explanation of my plan. However, I wanted you to kind of see what and how I chose to use this pastimes paper. I used it almost like a tool to incorporate a research and writing aspect to our timeline of history. It's an easy one to kind of split up. Now, the only caveat I have for you is that a lot of these papers, the pages are 5 pages long. Therefore, I went through and I printed each topic separately. This one happened to be 6 pages. But if you don't print each topic separately and you're doing front and back of pages, there are going to be some that you're going to end up not having on the right sides of the pages, and you can't create like a separation in it. I don't know where, I could have sworn I thought they were only 5 pages long, some of them. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm crazy. It might work just fine. Maybe I didn't count the pages right. So anyway, that's my plan for Pastimes newspaper. I hope I didn't confuse you. I hope it was actually helpful. And I will talk to you later. Bye.